Hello, my name is Paul Stierhoff. I'm a certified financial planner and I'm an executive vice president of the registered investment advisor, Granite Springs Asset Management. I'm here today to talk to you about the importance of having a comprehensive financial plan performed. Now, I've had clients ask me in the past, what's the value of having a comprehensive financial plan done? Especially taking into light the fact that there are some fees involved in having that plan done. And as far as your part as the client, there's also a time commitment. You have to take the time to gather up all the paperwork so that the planner can do the review. Now, a typical answer to this question is something along the line of, well, you don't want to wake up one day and find that your children are in high school and you haven't done anything yet to plan for their college education. Or maybe you're getting close to retirement and you're not sure if you are able to retire or can afford to retire. Or maybe you look at things and finally realize, no, you cannot afford to retire. And this is all part of the process, but the financial planning process takes in much more than that. The financial planning process looks at your entire financial picture, and it's looking for pitfalls. It's looking for errors that could be costly to you, either today or down the road. What most people don't recognize is that errors in financial planning can be very costly, and they can be as costly, if not more costly, than fluctuations in the stock and bond market are to your investment portfolio. Now, I think the best way for me to get this across to you is to give you some real-life examples I've come across over the years. And that might show you how there can be costly errors that you might not even recognize. So let me start with my first situation here. I was doing a review with a client of mine several years ago, and we were at the part in the process where I was looking at her tax return. And I noticed on her tax return that the previous year, she had taken a significant short-term capital gain, a very large short-term capital gain. So I started asking her some questions about this gain. And as we're talking, at some point all of a sudden she says, oh, I bought that stock years ago. And I thought to myself, well, if that's the case, this is not a short-term capital gain. It might very well be a long-term capital gain. And long-term capital gains are treated more favorably tax-wise than short-term gains are. So I told her I'd get in touch with her tax advisor and try to get his input on it. So the next day, I put a call into her tax advisor, I leave a message for him, explain what we had found, and ask for his feedback. To say the least, shortly thereafter, I get a call back from the advisor, rather sheepish call back, because he explained to me that yes, he looked it over and he had made a mistake. And he was going to, at that point, file an amended return and get her a tax refund. The difference in this case to my client was about $12,000. And this is an error, had she not gone through the review process, most likely would have never been found. Now, in my second example, I was doing some planning with a client of mine. He's a business owner. Actually, he owns two businesses, both very successful. This is a gentleman who was previously married, was divorced from his first wife, was now in a new marriage, a second marriage, and had two young children in his second marriage. So we're going through the process, and I'm at the point where I'm looking at his estate planning documents. And I asked him about his will because I didn't see a will in the documents that he gave me. So I asked him, do you have a will? And his first response to me is, nope, don't have a will. So with that, I started going into the importance of having a will. And he had many reasons for having a will. But if for no other reason, he had two young children. And typically, you would use the will to appoint a guardian for the young children in the event that something should happen to him and his wife. You would also use the will to appoint a custodian for any assets that he would have in this event. We're presuming that those assets would ultimately go to the children, but they're minors right now. So we want a guardian, or a custodian, I should say, to look over those assets until the children are old enough to be able to handle them on their own. So I'm going through this speech with him, I'm giving him this explanation, and suddenly he looks up at me. And he says, you know what? I do have a will. I did it years ago when I was in my first marriage. And I had to stop at this point, and I kind of gulped. And I had to point out to him that this particular instance is worse. It's worse in this case for him to have a will than to not have a will at all. And the reason for that is is that though that will was written years ago, even though his life has changed and he's now in a new marriage with a new family, that is still a valid will. And most likely, the beneficiary of that will would be his ex-wife. And what that means is that any assets that he has in his individual name, that would be savings and checking accounts, that would be CDs, that would be his investment accounts, that would include these two businesses that he owns. Any of these assets by way of that will would pass to his ex-wife should he pass away. This would be just a travesty to his family. It would be a horrible thing to happen. It would leave them with a significant financial uncertainty. By going through the financial planning process, he found this error, he was able to correct it, and now he can make sure that his family is taken care of in the event something should happen to him. Now, in a third example, this is a situation that I came across. It's actually not a client of mine, but it is somebody who I did know personally. This was a man, he was a successful dentist. He was 49 years old. He had everything that went along with his success. He was married. He had 2 children, 2 young girls in high school. He had the nice cars and the nice house. He had the golf club membership. His daughters were in private schools. Life was good. One day he wakes up and he's not feeling very well. He's not feeling very well at all. And it's actually suggested to him that he should go to the emergency room. But he decides not to. And later on that day, he ends up suffering a massive heart attack. Now, what comes out shortly thereafter is the fact that he had no life insurance, nor did he have a buy-sell agreement in place for his dental practice. So now his family is having to deal with the grief of his loss, but also they have to now deal with the uncertainty of how are they going to make it financially. Shortly after that, they had to give up the golf club membership. The girls had to leave their private school. They had to start enroll in public schools. They weren't sure if they were going to be able to afford to go to college. They had to put the house up for sale. Their life was turned upside down for really no reason, basically because he didn't go through the planning process and see this error, see that there was things that he needed to take care of his family. This is why I feel very strongly that it is important for everyone to have a comprehensive financial plan performed. And in fact, you should not only have one performed, but every 3 to 5 years, you should probably have it reviewed because situations change and you want to make sure everything's up to date. So if you think you would like to find out more about the planning process, or if you think you would like to have a comprehensive financial plan done, I invite you to contact me. You can reach me by phone at 800-922-0584, or you can email me. I can be reached at p.stierhoff, it's my first initial and last name, at granite-springs.com. Thank you for listening.